Good morning, good day, good evening, whatever your time zones may be, it doesn't matter. You are here for VRL and VRL only. As always, my name is Alex Bomberg. Joining me alongside me again in the commentary box. Very happy to welcome back. It's Mr. Jackson. Welcome to the commentary box and welcome back to VRL Season 6.
Oh, great to be back again. Bit different today, but yeah, looking forward to it. I think we should have a very exciting race. Last week we had a lot of close battles throughout the field. Benjamin sort of run away with it, but you know, in the early stages, Zach taking the fight to him was good to watch. Shame for it to go so badly for him near the end. But I think we could definitely have an entertaining race today, and hopefully we do.
Of course, 19 drivers lining up on the grid, just missing, I believe it might be Kerem in the second AlphaTauri at the moment. He's having connection issues with the game, as are you, Jackson, so you're sat on the sidelines for today.
Yeah, I'm sitting here on the live pad watching it. So yeah, it's a bit strange. At some point I'll try and figure out how far behind I am to get a rough idea of sort of trying to predict what's going on ahead of me. And not sort of say things like, oh, will they go for the overtake? And let's say that after they've gone for the overtake. So just trying to avoid things like that would be the aim for me.
Yeah, we might have a little bit of desync with Jackson. Nevertheless, we're waiting for the final few drivers now. And I think we're ready to start. Again, apologies for the delays. We had issues with the first lobby, issues with the second lobby, as well as issues with the task system, which thankfully have now sorted out as provided to us by Thibaut and the team. So thank you very much to him developing this amazing system for us to use throughout this season. It really does provide a great insight, Jackson.
Yeah, it is a fantastic feature to have, and it will, I'm sure, help us a lot, and it has in the past, and I'm sure it will continue to do so. Hopefully you can hear me alright.
Yeah, no worries. On our side, just a quick rundown of the grid. Obviously, you want to be keeping your eye on Championship leader Benjamin. Won last week, has won 3 out of 4 races so far. Who else is looking strong? Well, Dylan Warren, PSGL AOR. He's done a lot, Dylan. Won in Hungary, ahead of Benjamin, actually. He's certainly a name to watch today, Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, only driver to beat Benjamin so far this season. Yes, there was some internet issues for Benjamin in that race. However, still, I believe Dylan was ahead when it happened. Admittedly, there were some questions over the tyre wear and how long they'd last. But, I mean, it's hard to bet against him. It'd be interesting to see if they can repeat that sort of speed around the streets, not the streets, around the road here in Styria.
The beautiful Styrian mountains. Are the hills going to be alive this afternoon, Jackson? That is the question.
We're definitely going to be alive with the sound of Formula 1 engines, as everyone loading in now. Hopefully we'll have different weather to last race. That would be something that would make things a bit different to last week. Last week, of course, it was, if I remember correctly, dry qualifying, then a wet first half of the race, then a dry second half.
Bang on.
So, yeah, it's unlikely exact same weather, but I mean, it's possible. But you know, any sort of mix-up will change things around.
So, seems the qualifying conditions at least are going to be Styria and all ready to go. You can see Harry B in the final pit lane slot, exiting the pit lane now. Harry's got to be one to put an eye on today. Last week he was second, couldn't hold a candle to Benjamin, but we are hearing that Benjamin has had a few wheel issues this morning, and that could affect him big time today.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last week that sort of Benjamin's the runaway driver. I pretty much think there's about 5 or 6 cars that were quick enough to fight for that P2 position. So if Benjamin does find himself in that scrap, it could be one hell of a battle for the win. I mean, and that definitely is, I think that's what we sort of need, a race like that. just sort of where anyone can win, where anyone can have that chance at a podium, and maybe even a shock result, because it's tracks like Austria, where you see some of the maybe drivers who have struggled at other tracks, thrive around here, and are able to contend for victory where they may not be able to at other circuits. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, all these guys are very quick, but it's impossible to predict at this stage of the weekend.
Let's not forget as well, Austria, like last week, it's, in terms of lap time, the shortest lap, not only on the VRL calendar, but on the whole F1 calendar. We expect the lap times today to be around about the 1 minute 2.4, maybe 2.3 if someone really puts in a good lap. Maybe we'll see a 0.2. I believe Ben did a 0.2, but said he was on for even lower, as low as a 2.0 last week. So maybe even, it might be a bit absurd to suggest this, but could we see a driver get into the ones today, Jackson?
I mean, if we do, that would be something that it would be a long time before we can get seeing that. It would be one hell of a lap if they do manage to do that, and it would be a lap that I would definitely want to see. But I mean, it's unlikely, of course. Getting to the ones, obviously, it's insanely quick. Last week, the pole being 1 or 2.2, but as you said, Benjamin said he could have gone a bit quicker. So, with weeks more experience, weeks more practice, who knows what's possible? I hope we can see someone bring a surprise.
Of course, and not only Benjamin, as I believe that's Dylan who's gone around at the final corner, he's in the wall, and that he was on medium tyres just about to start his lap, so if he was looking for the reverse strategy, it's not going to happen now, or at least it is with extremely worn tyres. But as I was just going to say, Midnight, certainly one to watch. He's got a lot of pace. He raced in VRL at the Haas team back in season 4. Hasn't drove for a while, returning today, signing up as a reserve, and he could certainly be one to watch Midnight. If anyone's going to take the fight to Benjamin throughout this pack, you definitely put your money on Midnight and Dylan.
Yeah, they're very quick drivers. Another thing to look at today is, of course, an all-time of VRL F1. 3 teams are tied for the most wins. 2 of those 3 teams are Haas and Mercedes, and they are 2 teams today that could definitely be going against each other for the victory. So obviously it'll only be in the short term that they'll have the lead in amount of VRL F1 race wins. But still, I mean, it's a statistic you want to have, and for the team principal, that's something they'd love to have, I'm sure.
Ben's invalidated 2 laps in a row now. But yeah, good point. We had Sem the Notix, former VRL commentator for 4.5, 5 seasons, take over as team principal at Haas. He's trying to boost his drivers up off the bottom of the Constructors' Championship at the moment. And I'll be honest, Nick Pancras not with a lap in at the moment, but Solely B, I believe we decided on his name. That is Jarno Opme, not the real one. It turns out his name is actually Jarno Opme, but not obviously F1 Esports champion Jarno Opme. Solely B in the Haas, currently less than a 10th off Midnight. That's a fair effort from the Haas driver.
Yeah, for the first runs of the session, there are some solid laps out there. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. It's of course pace to be improving throughout the session. Will be interesting to see how much that improves by. Of course, track conditions may be different to last week. They look very similar, very sunny, clear skies. However, who knows, might be a couple degrees hotter or cooler, and that could make a difference to the lap times. But so far, it seems fairly similar to last week, given that it's early in the session. And I think we could be looking at a low 102 here. As we said earlier, 1-1 is going to be near impossible. But, I mean, near impossible, not completely impossible. Who knows what we'll see.
Anything can happen. Meanwhile, we've got a few drivers making not their debuts. We've got Mode Stroll, who just invalidated his lap, making his debut for Alfa Romeo as a full-time driver now. We've got Scott in the McLaren for the first time in VRL driving. McLaren could do with some points. They haven't had many points. They've also got yesterday's race winner and F1 reserve AMCF in that McLaren team. So potential for points, you'd say, today for McLaren, Jackson.
Definitely a strong lineup. there. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do. Points, obviously, something that every team's going to be wanting, especially this stage of the season where we're not fully into the season yet. We're still very much feels like early stages, but it's getting that stage where drivers are starting to look more and more at the championship, at their championship position, to see sort of what they're fighting for this season. And that's, of course, something the teams will do too, so all the points will be very crucial.
Constructors' Championship matters as well, of course. There's murmurs from the admin team that, you know, some sort of prize money system to be implemented in VRL depending on where the constructor finishes. Nothing I can confirm nor deny at the moment. However, something to keep an eye on, and it makes the constructors' battle even more entertaining, Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, it gives every team that bit more motivation to push forward. Of course, at the moment, looking like Mercedes are pretty much dominating it at this stage of the season, with two very strong drivers. Of course, Benson being one of the two who has been just outstanding so far this season. But I mean, Williams are in a strong P2 at the moment, and I mean, if something goes wrong for Mercedes, they have a couple bad races in a row, and Williams take advantage of that. The fight's back on. I mean, it's a 45-point gap, which at this stage of the season is pretty huge. But you know, it doesn't take much. A few bad races for Mercedes, and it could swing the other way. And definitely turn into a big fight. Yeah, I mean, there's a few other teams in the mid-pack. You've got like AlphaTauri, Renault, Racing Point. They look like the three teams in that fight for P3 in the championship. All with very strong lineups and definitely big chances at points today. Then you've got a team like McLaren, who are sitting on 17 points at the moment. As we said earlier, they're going to be just wanting to get some points on the board. You get maybe a bit close to that battle for P3 with those three teams. They're a bit off in terms of the relative to the teams around them at the moment, but you know, anything can change at this stage of the season. And all of the teams have scored points. Of course, as I said earlier, Haas bottom of the table with 8, which is still a solid amount of points in a league as competitive as this.
Whilst you've been covering the constructors' battle, Dylan went onto pole, Midnight went onto pole, and then Dylan went back onto pole. Dylan, 8,000 separating him and Midnight at the top. It's really going to be a close battle, and Benjamin did settle up. He's only in third at the minute, 2.5 tenths down on Dylan Warren. We said these two could take the fight to Benjamin, and it looks like at the minute they certainly are.
Very strong announcement two up front. Benjamin not looking quite comfortable yet in the session. Quite a few invalid laps. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Maybe. But I mean, if he can't get into a rhythm, he could well take this struggle into the race with him.
Yeah, Benjamin was, as I said, just over 2.5 tenths down, and he lost the majority of that in the final sector. I can see on the task system losing. It was the best part of 2 tenths in the final sector to Harry. It's not Harry on pole, that's Dylan actually. So thought Harry jumped up to pole. Harry only 9th, so he's going to want to improve on that this lap. And matching that, he's just matched Benjamin in the first sector.
Speaking about matching, Harry and Lizar is currently on exactly the same lap time, which is something you don't see often. But of course, all the tracks for it to happen, you'd expect it to happen at a track like Austria with a very short lap time.
Of course,
we have an even shorter track later in the season, which can be very interesting to see.
Of course, the VRL admins are announcing that the second round in Silverstone, the English Grand Prix, will be held at the Silverstone Short Circuit as a 100% race. So that'll be something new for us, Jackson. Something for us to sink our teeth into as Harry goes up to 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a bit of experience around the short circuit at Silverstone. A few things that I noticed from my experiences there is that track limits there, it's tricky because there's a couple of corners there, one in particular corner where it's hard to gauge where the exact limit is. Of course, these guys are very good at sort of maximising the limits of the track, so I'm sure they'll find it fairly easily. But that thing is that you just can't shake the DRS off around there. However, overtaking itself a bit tricky, but you know, if you can just stay in the DRS, you're just staying in the fight, and I think that will be very entertaining to watch and commentate on.
Welcome Phil on the live stream. VRL season 2 champion, I believe. I think he was Season 2. Was it Season 1 or was that
I
Matt?
want to say one.
Oh, have I been called out there?
The way round.
Chat, can you
I could be wrong here.
Damn. I think you might be right.
Let's see.
Season 1. Yeah, Season 1. Oh, Alex Bomberg's made a rare mistake in the commentary box, Jackson.
Yeah, and I've made a rare correct thing, so we're to the swapping positions. Yeah, qualifying still very close up front.
Yeah, apologies to Phil with that one, but multiple race winner, you know, the stats speak for themselves. With Phil, he arguably would have won here back in Season 4. If it wasn't for an untimely safety car which led Phil to say some, let's put it, flavoured language over the radio. But you know, Phil, top lad, and great to see him popping back in for a knock, but 6 minutes left in this qualifying session. Dylan Warren still on pole, leads from Midnight, who is on a lap at the moment. He's improved in Sector 1. Meanwhile, Dylan hasn't. Sector 2 from Midnight, we're waiting. It's a purple sector. It's a purple sector from Midnight. Dylan not able to match him, so it looks like Midnight, if he can hook up these final 2 corners, is going to jump onto pole. Let's see how he does through the final corner. He keeps it valid right on the rigged edge of the track, and it's a 1 minute 2.1. Quick lap there from Midnight. Let's see what Dylan can do. It's slightly slower. 39 thousandths, Jackson.
Well, that is insanely close there. Yeah, still got a bit of time left in the session, so who knows what's going to happen. Yeah, it is so close to the front, and that is one hell of a lap time getting into the point ones there.
And Benjamin's out. Benjamin's out. He's crashed at turn 1 on the exit.
Well, we said today could be an interesting day, and well, so far it definitely has been. That is, I wouldn't say championship effect. I would say it's not championship changing, but definitely championship affecting.
I think Ben's got the luxury in that he's got. I don't want to say he can afford it, but it's not going to impact him as much as it would someone say Harry, like his incident in Bahrain.
It might cut down his gap a bit, but by such a small margin that by the end of the season it wouldn't matter. But still, I mean, even you'd think the lap time itself, it's strange to see. It'd be interesting to see if anyone can get ahead of him, because the further down the order he goes, the less chance he's got to fight me back up today. But we know Benjamin has the raw pace, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can get into the fight for the victory.
Well, behind Ben it's really close. It's less than a tenth from Ben all the way down to, well, Luke and Nick in 9th, and Tim is, you know, not much further than half a tenth back from that. So we could see Benjamin really drop down towards, you know, the edges of the top 10 here.
Yeah, I mean, that would be disastrous. And I think one of the most painful for Ben is that he may drop down to maybe, as you said, sort of lower end edge of the top 10. However, if he stays inside the top 10, he still doesn't get that free choice of tyres. Which I think if you're going to have a bad quality, you want to at least have some sort of advantage from. But at the moment, looking like Benjamin could well end up in a sticky situation. Especially if the leaders have got the pace that they appear to be showing in quality so far.
Yeah, shame for Ben, and no offence to Tim, but yeah, he just hasn't had the pace, not just today but this season. Looks like Mercedes aren't gonna keep up their run of 4, and they won't be able to make it 5 consecutive pole positions, and they might struggle even more to make it 5 consecutive wins for the Mercedes team.
Yeah, I mean it's been a season dominated. But who knows? Today could be the day that things start to change. And I'll be honest, I mean, it'd be nice to see it mixes up a bit, but it's all to play for. I mean, we know Benjamin's a great driver. It's not over for him yet. He still very much is aiming for that victory.
Well, let's see how his race pace is. Let's see how his race pace is. Someone I'm watching at the minute, Ballina, invalidated turn 1. He's going to have to go again. He does have the fuel, by the looks of it, but Ballina, really quick in Sector 1. He's a tenth quicker than anyone else in this session, other than Gill, who's within a couple of thousandths. But Ballina and Gill well ahead of the chasing pack in Sector 1, but they're losing time elsewhere in the middle and the final sector. But Ballina, who said he was struggling without the ABS system, I believe, as it is no assists here in the top tier of VRL, Ballina coping quite well up in third.
Yeah, doing well so far, in a strong position. And definitely in contention there. A bit of a gap to the top guys, but who knows that in the race, just being able to somewhat keep on pace, it's still just staying in the DRS is good.
Yeah, we've got Tim on a lap now. He's about a tenth down on Midnight through the first sector. His second sector is really poor actually. He's lost about a second and a half. So Tim has backed out of this, and he does have a chance to go again if he's got the fuel. We'll keep an eye on him. Let's see if he can outqualify his teammate for the first time this season. Ballina has also restarted a lap, and we do also have Midnight on a lap. Yes, we do. He has invalidated, so Midnight invalidates. He will get another chance, but crucially, Dylan Warren just exiting the pits now. He's not going to get another lap in. He's not going to get another lap in Jackson. No way.
No, unless we have a time. Well, you have a timing glitch, of course,
unless
being in the session.
He doesn't seem to particularly be in a rush. So.
I mean, that's could either. If he speeds up a bit now, maybe he'll get around if it is a timing glitch. But maybe he's just gone out to give his maybe a teammate a slipstream, or someone he can party with a slipstream.
Looks like he is. Midnight again, yeah, there he goes. Memes gets the slipstream from Dylan. Memes trying to improve on P12 at the moment. Shazoo Midnight did invalidate, so Midnight, the best he's going to do is a 2.1. The best Dylan is going to do is a 2.1. Ballina can't challenge, he's in the pits. Benjamin can't challenge, he's retired. Harry B now is the highest up driver who can make a bid for pole right now. And in the first sector, let's look at his timing, let's wait for his timing. He's about half a tenth down on Midnight as things stand at the moment.
Still very close though, and not all to play for at this stage. Can Harry get into the fight? It's going to be tough. He's going to really have to nail the rest of the lap. But it's not over yet.
I think he'll be satisfied. If he can find a tenth and a half, he'll jump up into P3, and that will be a great result for the Williams. Remember, Williams have scored a podium in 100% of the races this season. 4 out of 4 for Williams, and I'm sure the Williams team principal, Stein Krustra, will be very keen for them to keep that one going. Currently, they've got one driver on the second row of the grid, but Harry has invalidated, and the best he's going to be doing today is P5. Third and fifth, a respectable performance for the Williams boys though. Further back, solely B has invalidated. We've got a lot of drivers invalidated at the moment. 7th for the Haas team, not too bad for the Haas driver. Mode Stroll 9th on his full-time debut, and I think that is the grid set, Jackson. So Midnight on pole, a 102.1. As far as debuts go, that's quite successful, you'd argue.
Yeah, that is a very strong debut or this season, and it's going to be very tight though in the race. We could see one hell of a battle between Dylan and Midnight, and I hope we do. I mean, if they're that close in quali, they're going to be surely even closer in the race. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they can sort of perhaps break away from the pack, or if they'll just pull the pack with them. That would be something that they'll try and do, but who knows.
Well, there seems to be an obvious buffer between the top two and the chasing pack. Whether that will translate to race pace, we're not sure, but I think it's going to be so interesting seeing Benjamin, because he's got a championship to fight for. He can't afford to sit around, because he's going to get swallowed up by Harry, by Gil as well. We know Gil's taking steps forward, but Tim, still 8 places off his teammate. Disappointing day for Tim, down in 12th.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not that, not really on the pace as at the moment, but it'll be interesting to see the Mercedes team as a whole try and make their way back up the order. I think we could see quite a cautious Benjamin in the race, just carefully making positions, because, I mean, in terms of the championship, there's no real main champion contender ahead of him. Well, there isn't, it's simple as that. Behind, I mean, there's people like, Harry, he's had a good amount of points this season, not obviously championship contention, because I think it's fair to say Benjamin is the only driver in championship contention at the moment. But, I mean, I think Benjamin has to be careful. He can't go for these outrageous moves, because it's those 12 points of P4 would still be a solid result, but it would be disastrous if he got no points and someone that was behind him in the championship and close enough to close in a bit got the win whilst he was sat on 0. It would perhaps give him more of a worry for the rest of the season.
Of course, and loading into the session now, dark here in Austria, in Styria. Not raining, certainly not to the degree it was last week, but potential for maybe a bit of rain later on in the race if the clouds stay around Jackson.
Perhaps, yeah. Definitely much drier than last week, but who knows what will happen with the clouds in the Styrian hills. They could come out of nowhere.
They could.
For the formation lap.
Looking back in the history books then, here at Austria, or also known as Styria, obviously last week we had Benjamin win. He's on P4 at the moment. Last season, Season 5, we had none other than F3 Asian Rookie Champion of the season so far, IGK Zach, win the race. So that's one. That's one for the resume.
Yeah.
So certainly a illustrious list, and it goes further back. Felix in the Renault of Season 4, Billy Season 3, Mark in the Toro Rosso of Season 2, which was Austria's first appearance on the VRL calendar. 10 corners around this beautiful, mountainous racetrack. The average pit stop length about 21 seconds long. Sort of an average pit stop time, not necessarily long, not necessarily short, but that does make an issue for drivers, meaning they have to extend a little bit longer to get that gap out of traffic. It's 332 meters from pole to turn number 1. It's a 4.3 kilometer long track, and we got 36 wondrous laps of racing. And Jackson, I think this is going to be quite entertaining. So many questions going in today. Midnight on his debut on pole. Dylan, if he steps up to the plate, races a bit more often, there's certainly an argument to say he can have a championship challenge. Ballina with some found pace, and the championship leader, the man who's dominated the season so far, Benjamin, only in 4th, with Harry, a chasing championship rival, down in 5th. There's a lot to go on today, Jackson.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting race as the drivers make their way onto the grid now.
I've heard we might have some rain. I'm not entirely sure. We've heard Ben is struggling with his wheel. So many questions, as I said, going into this race. We've got 19 drivers lined up on the grid. Midnight in the Racing Point on pole. For the second time this weekend, Racing Point have a car on pole. They did it first in F2, they've done it again now. Dylan Warren in second, it's lights out, and away we go. Good start from Memes Varys, he's ahead of the Renault into turn number 1. Midnight leads us away. Dylan Warren tucks in behind, there's a bit of contact between Ballina and I believe that is the Ferrari. Benjamin falling down into 7th, a disastrous start for the championship leaders. Memes Varys is all the way up into 9th already as he's battling away with the Haas. Midnight leads us into turn number 3 ahead of Dylan Warren. He's opening up a nice gap for himself, a little bit of breathing room for the Racing Point in the overcast conditions of the Styrian Mountains. Ballina still chasing down Dylan Warren ahead of Harry, who's made up a couple of one position, I'd say, on his championship rival Benjamin on the opening lap. Memes Virus ahead of Soli BX, who's had a poor start, lost a couple of positions. Tim Wenting up into 9th. A little bit of damage on the front wing for Tim. That's not going to help him at all, Jackson.
Yeah, that's going to hurt, especially on a track like this where you need that front downforce. Fairly clean first lap, a few drivers here and there with a few issues, but I mean especially up front, very clean, with Midnight getting a start they would have dreamt of there, and holding
it's Midnight's off, Midnight's had a spin, has he? Oh no, he's out the session. Is he out the session? No, he's not. Sorry, there's a few connection issues there. I saw him plummeting down the order. Thankfully, he's still in the session, I can confirm. And we got a virtual safety car because AMC has spun at the last corner. Both Kerem and Luke have been caught up in that in the first lap. So, sorry to scare you Midnight fans there, but Midnight does still lead the race. We do have a timing glitch. I believe that will be sorted out just now. But virtual safety car, Midnight still leads.
Yeah, interesting first lap. Strange moment there. A bit scary being obviously hearing you live but watching the stream. Yeah, as I was saying, great start by Midnight, exactly what they needed to get. We'll have to see if they can hold on to that, or on this restart, could Dylan and Balner potentially get back in to the battle for the win?
And we've now got back to green. Benjamin has got past the Ferrari of Isu. Benjamin, we are hearing struggling with his wheel, so we'll see how that one plays out throughout the course of this race. You do rather get the feeling, Jackson, that Benjamin is going to have a damage limitation sort of afternoon today here in the Styria Mountains, as he is under threat from the Ferrari behind.
Yeah, one of the issues that potentially could be for Benjamin is penalties. If he's struggling to quite get the wheel correct, then perhaps that could be an issue for him.
Yeah, we just had Harry go off, and he has had contact with the Ferrari, so that makes Ben's race a little bit easier. I believe the Ferrari of Isu's tried to make a move on Benjamin, overshot it, and had contact with Harry. So Harry with damage, the Ferrari also with damage, and this clears the road for Memes Virus, who after these two presumably pits, he'll be up into P5. That will, what a start for the two Red Bull boys. Red Bull at the moment looking quite comfy in terms of the Constructors' Championship picture. Meanwhile, Midnight leads us out up front, 0.6 of a second clear to Dylan Warren behind, and Ballina following suit. Benjamin, championship leader, fastest lap of the race, nevertheless of the car ahead as Ballina goes wide at turn number 1. It looked as if he was about to challenge Dylan up this straight. Bear in mind, we might start to see a battle for the start, for the lead I should say.
Yeah, everyone very close to this stage. Dylan very close to the rear of Midnight. Move potential in a few laps, but perhaps it'd be smart just to stay behind. Maybe save a bit of fuel, save a bit of ERS, and go for a move later in the race.
Meanwhile, defending champion Gil has just made a move on Soli BX, the Haas driver. Still fighting for points. Haas need the points. New team principal, the Notix, said that he's trying to lift them up the bottom of the Constructors' Championship today, and points are points at the end of the day, and we'll see with one of their drivers in Nick Pancras already retiring. The hope of Haas solely lies on the shoulders of Soli B. Let's have a look back at the front. Dylan still chasing down Midnight. Ballina, despite that mistake into turn 1, is still with these two, but Dylan looking very close to the rear wing of Midnight here. Is he going to go for a move, or is he going to... Are we going to see what we see sometimes here in League Racing? He's just going to sit behind and conserve his fuel, conserve his ERS, conserve his tyres as well, because Jackson, you'll know, racing here can really, really damage your tyres, especially your rears.
Yeah, it really is a type of those slow speed corners.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jackson. Dylan Warren going for the lead here. I had a look down to see the YouTube comments. I look up and Dylan Warren side by side, clinical move ahead of Midnight up into the lead. Meanwhile, Memes Virus battling with the Ferrari of Isu, who does have front wing damage. Memes Virus won the first race here in Austria in F2. He's back again for more. This time in the F1 tier, battling away with the Ferrari. This Ferrari of Isu is struggling along with front wing damage, and you rather get the feeling Memes is going to make a move shortly. He's going to have a look inside, down the inside of the penultimate corner. He's up into 5th, and he can get his foot down after Benjamin now, who, to be fair to Benjamin, if he is enduring problems with his wheel, he's getting a move on, and he's back within the DRS of Ballina ahead. Sorry to cut you off, Jackson. Talking about the tyre situation here.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a good mix of slopey and high speed corners, so it really is a tyre killer. But the cars are battling throughout the field at the moment. Yeah, I've got a feeling that as we see a battle here, well, you're seeing it before I am, but a battle for the middle of the points there. But I've got a feeling Dylan may have got a warning in the process of taking the lead of the race, because when he chopped across the front, I've got a feeling he went over as... Yeah, I've just looked, yeah, I've just seen it in the...
I think we're
Has
back.
it come back?
I think we are
I
back.
think it's come back.
Welcome back. Minor technical issues. Don't think we've missed too much, as we still have Dylan leading away from Midnight, who is holding on with the DRS at the moment. So we'll have to see. Ballina and Benjamin both following suit. Gil up in 5th. This is a great battle. Memes Virus though into the pits now.
Yeah, it's very close still up front. Can Dylan do a better job at getting away up front? It's hard to say at this stage with the DRS being so powerful around this place. But I mean, as Memes Virus into the pit lane, puts them at a bit of a disadvantage at the moment to a lot of the other drivers. Good here because the stream quality, but for the most part I can see what's happening though. Yeah, as that's but I don't know whether that's a slide. I think there's a bit of an oversteer moment there for Benjamin that I witnessed. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which lap everyone else pits. Perhaps Memes Virus had some damage. I would have to assume that this early in the race to pit. But I'd say maybe lap 16 around about then is when I'd expect to see drivers coming into the first round of pit stops, maybe a lap or two earlier, especially if they want to go for an undercut on the driver around them.
Seems to be fairly status quo. Midnight is back into the lead, so another one we've missed, and Midnight actually in actual fact is well clear. Thanks for pointing that out, Jackson.
Also just got a penalty.
Yeah.
So that could be that perhaps there's a reason maybe they went for the lead but went off track to obviously avoid a collision, but just kept their foot in it and went for it.
I'd argue Dylan might have made a mistake. Given that gap was the best part, nearly a second, maybe Dylan made a mistake. I can't see anything obvious on the task system. His last lap was 1.5 seconds slower, so he must have made a mistake on that last lap, which has dropped him behind Midnight whilst we were watching a battle further down. Dylan's in the wall! Dylan's made a mistake. The driver who we were saying could take it to the likes of Benjamin, could mount a championship challenge after today, has gone and literally thrown it all the way into the inside barrier, the final corner. And what a shame for Dylan. He's got a long way back to the pits.
Yeah, I mean, of all the places to bin it, that's the worst place to do it with such a long. But they'll have to do the entire lap now before they can change their wing. Lucky to not get any other cars caught up in that accident there. It's like he just dropped it coming out the final corner, which is so easy to do around here. Yeah, that is going to give Benjamin and Midnight a bit more hope for this race. With one of the favourites for it going out. Well, not fully out, but well, what appears to be out of contention unless we see a safety car at some point.
In the midst of all that, Benjamin up into second place past Ballina. So Benjamin is turning this race around as Ballina pits now. Ballina does pit. You saw him cut across that white line. We deemed, the admin said that's okay as long as it's safe, and you got to say that was done in a safe manner from Ballina. So what tyres? Because it seems slightly early for mediums at this moment, Jackson. Hard tyres for Ballina. Would you argue that's the right choice?
I don't understand, to be honest. You'd think that if you're going to go for the undercut, you wouldn't. Perhaps the hards and mediums aren't too different here. Perhaps that's their thinking. But I mean, it's an interesting strategy choice. But definitely unusual, and definitely, I'm guessing, going to be off strategy of most of the other drivers. So I'd be interested in seeing what everyone else does. Will they react, or will they stay out and stick with the soft to medium strategy?
We'll have to see. Looking back to the front, however, got a Gil all the way up in third. Strong lap, a strong job so far from Gil. Could we have an outside chance of a podium here from Gil if he stretches it to the medium tyres and then reaps the rewards at the end of the race?
Yeah, that would definitely be a potential strategic option. And from the position he's in, definitely something that would probably be quite a good shout to try and put themselves in a different position.
We've got Mode Stroll into the pits now. We've seen a lot of drivers pitting earlier than we'd expect as Gil gets the 3-second time penalty. That's one thing Gill's been really good at this season, not getting penalties, which has earned him a lot of points. But yeah, today he has got a penalty. Meanwhile, that's slowly B making a move down the inside of turn. The one as Mode Shaw is going to come out behind these two on the brink of the points. But Jackson, seemingly the tyres going off a little bit earlier than we'd expect.
Yeah, it seems very strange. I mean, it's usually a very easy one-stop, soft to medium here. Of course, you can look after your tyres to avoid them dropping off a cliff, but still, it's for drivers like this, that should not be a problem. But it seems they are struggling a lot at the moment, which is very unusual.
That could have been the source of Dylan's problems as well, potentially. Maybe just overwearing, overheating the rear tyres potentially, and spinning them up and putting it in the barrier, which ultimately was his fate. Midnight does have 3 seconds of time penalties, however, you get the feeling he's rather just sitting on that gap at the moment to Ben, and if he so would like to do so, he can put his foot down and maybe extend that gap. I mean, well, Ben is reeling in, so maybe Ben's got a bit more pace than he's showing off at the minute, although it does seem as if he's expending a lot of his ERS. Luke and Nick and Scott are battling here up the hill. Look at Nick side by side. Scott's going to come back with the DRS. You mentioned, Jackson, the DRS extremely powerful here in Austria, and Scott proving that as he goes back up the inside of Luke and Nick. So Jackson, racer's mind in you, when would you expect these drivers, the top two, to call it quits and pull into the pits?
Well, I mean, the perfect strategy would probably be around lap 15, 16, so they're keeping both the tyre sets balanced in terms of the wear on them. But I mean, depending on what they want, maybe they want to cover off those behind, maybe go lap 14, as it now says the pit window is now open as Benjamin is in the pit lane. Yeah, it's. I personally would probably go lap 15 or 16, and it's a track. Austria is not a track which is hard to overtake on. So with good tyre wear, you can. If you've got a car that's quick, you can definitely re-overtake if you lose a position on them.
Which is, I assume, going to be demonstrated by Benjamin here, because he's come up behind Ballina, fresh tyres, softer tyres, and I can't imagine this will be too hard for him. We'll come back to you in just a moment, Jackson. Benjamin with the DRS. This is going to be an important move. Remember, he's got Midnight, which he's battling with, who's trying to complete the overcut on Benjamin. Benjamin with DRS goes round the outside, and that might help him in his battle against Midnight if he's struggling with his tyres. Let's look back to the front. Is Midnight going to pit? Yes, he is. So, medium tyres. Personally, Jackson, I'd argue that Ben stopped a little, even Midnight's as well, a little bit early for the medium tyres.
Definitely a risk. It's going to be interesting to see if it pays off or not. But it's going to be tight, definitely for sure. They're going to have to definitely watch the tyres, not necessarily conserve them, but definitely not overuse them, not burn through them too much.
Meanwhile, there's Benjamin coming through at turn number 1. It has been completed successfully. The two swap, and Benjamin has made up 1.5 seconds on that outlap. What a lap from Benjamin to get him up ahead of Midnight, but crucially now Benjamin in a racing point sandwich. So is there going to be some team tactics here, or is Midnight going to be able to blitz back past the Mercedes and championship leader Benjamin? He's not going to be able to do it yet. He's going to have to sit around in P3, an effective P2, but I'd argue at the moment, Jackson, Ballina might be on the right, the best strategy out of the top 3, given how the race is, because I've given the pace that these drivers are driving at, which is pretty remarkable, the tyres surely can't cope with that stress for another 22 laps.
Well, yes, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Quick thing unrelated to what's going on track, with the actually with the stream. If you've got the stream up and you've got TAS up, could you close both of them to try and fix the equality of the stream?
Beat you to it. I have.
In that, have you just done that now, or have you had that done for a while?
I've just done that now, Jackson. So, Jackson.
Okay, I'll keep you updated.
Jackson's going to be on the phone to my internet company shortly. Nevertheless, Midnight still chasing after Benjamin, but Midnight has got that issue of the penalty looming over his head.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to hold him back for sure. But I think a key part now is just to be cautious now. Don't get any more warnings, and let the others get warnings and pressure them into some mistakes.
Of course, I would ask you to check warnings if you're in the session, but unfortunately we're having that issue, given why I'm streaming. But as I said, Midnight still on the back of Benjamin. These guys opening up a nice gap. Balnut's now out of DRS, but solely B is up in 4th for the Haas team. Where did that come from, Jackson?
I'm going to guess that was a pretty much nailed strategic choice there. Perhaps cost them later in the race, but I mean, it looks like they've got the hard tyres on there, so it's perhaps that could very much work for them, but it's going to be interesting to see whether it does work or not. In the long term, it might hurt them, but at the moment, as things stand, they're in a very strong position.
Yeah, as Gill's just made a move past him up into P4. Gill, arguably, I don't want to put any curses on him now, but Gill having one of his better races this season, you'd have to argue, and with fresher, softer tyres, it's not out the question that he can go and challenge Bellner for P3, Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, that would be quite the result for Gill, who's struggled so far this season. But it's going to be tough, but those tyres seem to be working well. Gill appears to have nailed the transition there, which is, of course, very crucial at a track like this, where strategy is very important.
Of course. As you mentioned, tyres go off quite quickly, but look at the gap on the mini-map between, as Gill sets the fast lap at the Grand Prix. So Gill, proving he's got pace today, glimpses of the old Gill may be shining through, but it doesn't look as if he's going to challenge. Certainly the top two are still... who are certainly still at it for the lead. Is Midnight close enough this time? Doesn't look... Seems as if Midnight is just a little bit content of sitting behind for the moment. Is that a strategy you'd expect to see from the Racing Point driver at the moment, Jackson?
Given the position they're in and they have that penalty, I would say yes. Because they just want to push Benjamin. However, they don't want to get too sort of settled, because if Benjamin realises that they are just sitting behind and not going to try the move, then Benjamin will start to back off a bit and not worry about pushing, and therefore won't get any more warnings. So it's sort of, you've got to balance it. You've got to keep Benjamin pressured without risking yourself any more penalties. Very quick thing, could I please try and get me into the lobby again?
I'll send you an invite.
Just to see if we can get in now. It hasn't been lagging too much, it just hasn't looked fantastic, so let's see if I can join. Hopefully I can.
We're working on that ongoing issue. I'll keep you posted nevertheless. Midnight still battling Benjamin, but looking closer. You got to argue this is beneficial for his tyres if he's able to stay behind and just keep the tyres where he wants them. This could pay dividend at the end of the race for Midnight. As well as Ballona, this is ideal, because they're not, I mean, obviously they're not going tooth and nail, losing 3 seconds like going side by side through every corner, but at the same time, they're not just foot to the floor flat out trying to, you know, outpace each other's lap times. They are thinking about the long term here, Benjamin and Midnight, so Ballona still very much so in this race, but that gap between Ballona and Gill is coming down, so let's keep an eye on that. And Gill's teammate ACSE is the only driver other than Benjamin in the top 10 who doesn't have a penalty, interestingly, so he's done the Gill strategy today, and that can really help him a little bit later on. Meanwhile, Scott still battling away. He's going to look down the inside of Mode Stroll into turn number 3, makes a little bit of contact, shows him the curb, and Scott moves up into P8. Good move there from the McLaren driver. Is Mode Stroll going to have a go back at him now? He's got ERS overtake mode enabled. The McLaren blocks off the inside and he's not able to do that. Great move there from Scott up into P8. But I have to say, ACSE looking in a good position at the moment, and for Renault as well. You got to argue, Jackson, they're looking quite strong 20 laps into this race.
Yeah, I mean, we said that last week, and well, it changed a bit from that point on. But yeah, so far so good. But as we saw last week, it can change so quickly. But it's still the top two in the race, sitting comfortably. But I mean, I think in the later stages of the race, it could all kick off and potentially end in contact if these two get too aggressive.
Yeah, Midnight had a little look there at Benjamin, and just a correction, ACSC into the pits. He hadn't pit yet, but he is on soft tyres. He's going to be absolutely rapid in this last stage of the race, Jackson.
Yeah, being on the softs at the end is very much a big advantage, and could help them a lot, but in the position they're currently in, perhaps they're too far back to get anything big out of it, but, you know, with a safety car they could very much be in a chance for a lot of points today. It's been a fairly quiet race so far in terms of incidents, apart from, of course, lap 1 and the early stages. But sort of, we've seen a while now since the pit stop window. It's been very calm, very careful, I'd say, and the drivers are just focusing on making it to the finish.
It's not been crazy. Tyre wear certainly seeming a little bit higher than what we've seen before. Nevertheless, Midnight tucked in right behind the championship leader now. Benjamin defends the inside. Midnight goes around the outside. Seems as if Ben didn't make that too hard for the Racing Point driver. He did back off, presumably to get the DRS. This time around we're on board with the helicopter shot. Now back on board with Benjamin. Not able to make a move. Midnight moves up into the lead, but as you mentioned earlier, Jackson, that penalty looms over him.
Definitely. I mean, I think Benjamin will be happy to sit back and just watch him at this stage, because, I mean, there's no need to go for the overtake if you can get the position. However, of course, there is the risk. Could perhaps Midnight try and get one of the warnings removed for some reason?
Of course, that's always prominent. Meanwhile, we've got Memes Virus getting past. Memes doing a stellar job so far in that Red Bull, considering he's an F2 driver, a reserve for F1, and certainly proving his worth, maybe even targeting a step up to the Tier 1 series next season, but nevertheless solely be still in a respectable P6 for the Haas team, as they're gonna push on. We've got quite a battle looming further back. Having a quick look at penalties, Benjamin now has a penalty, Jackson, so the gloves are going to come off at the front of the field. This is now a legitimate race for the lead. Benjamin can no longer afford to just sit behind and dawdle around for the next 13 laps. This is going to get interesting, Jackson.
This really has just heated up a lot, with Benjamin now going to have to be pushing on the absolute limit, potentially losing that lead at 2 Midnight. Actually, perhaps worried Benjamin a bit, and he's having to push a bit harder to try and keep up. So Benjamin's going to be on the limit now to try and win this race, but it'll be interesting to see whether he can get close enough to take the lead back or not.
Meme still having a go at who's that? Soli, who's got back up into 5th. A little bit of a slide there from Memes. Memes with all the tyres on the Haas, so you got to think if Memes is going to make that move, he's got to make it now. And looking back to the front, Midnight, I think he's just at the fast lap of the race. That is an extra point going his way, away from Benjamin to the Racing Point team. And most importantly, or not necessarily importantly, but it does kind of back up our theory that Midnight was just sat there behind Benjamin for a couple of laps, conserving his tyres, conserving his ERS, getting his fuel levels to where he wanted them to be, in which to push and attack now. And this is arguably quite a crucial stage of the race, Jackson, to really get his nose down and try and break up a gap from the leading driver at the top of the championship.
Yeah, I mean, Midnight, you can clearly see at the moment, looks to be the quickest to do. Benjamin clearly on the limit at this stage, trying to just keep up and stay on that DRS, because the second Benjamin loses that DRS, it's sort of, the chance for the win is very much gone. Because although in theory he can catch back up, it's looking at the moment that Midnight has got the better pace, and without that DRS, I've got a feeling Midnight will just pull away further and further and further away until Benjamin just loses sort of hope of the win and sits into that P2 position. Because at the moment top two looking fairly comfortable, but could there be someone in the mid-pack who potentially is on some very good tyres that would like to challenge the top two?
Gill's looking in a good position. That gap from him to Ballina down from what was 10 seconds down to 8 seconds now. in terms of penalties, Ballina has 9 seconds more than Gill does. So at the minute, IGK Gill looking as if he's on for a return to the podium for the first time this season, for the first time since Brazil, where he came second, just missed out to what actually was a racing point of Max last season to the top step. But I think it would be great for not only Gill's confidence, but for Gill's season to return to the podium today, Jackson.
Definitely. He needs a standout result like that to really get back into sort of the rhythm of being at the front. In Hungary, you saw Gill at the front in the early stages of the race, but then it had that mistake and it cost him. And it's things like that that he has to sort of limit at this sort of racing at this high of a level. And although last couple of races has improved a lot in terms of limiting mistakes, and of course throughout the entire season avoiding penalties has been their strength. Hasn't quite managed that today, but still, I mean the pace is fairly good at the moment for Gill, and perhaps a potential return to the podium.
Yeah, the one thing I'm slightly concerned about is Tim sets a fast lap outside the top 10 of 4.8 there. One thing I'm slightly concerned about Benjamin and Midnight is the pace that they're putting through these tyres. They're not going slow, they're not dawdling around, they are pushing the limits of the car, of the stress of the tyres. You've got that obviously takes a toll on the tyres, and the wear is going to start adding up. At what point do you think we'll get to a point where we'll see Benjamin maybe get a bit wobbly with his tyres? You know, maybe he hasn't sat back, maybe he has been pushing, resulting in a lot of rear wear. You know, we've seen a couple of times throughout this stint Benjamin getting a little bit of oversteer, a sign that he's not really too happy with the rear of that car. Could we see a late dive into the pits for softs from Benjamin?
I mean, it's possible. If he feels like he can, perhaps he'll try and stretch it as much as he can. Perhaps if he does lose that DRS2 Midnight, he might just go full conserve mode and just focus on making the tyres go to the end. Of course, with Matas at the moment, we can't obviously see Benjamin's tyre wear. However, we know that his tyres are older than Midnight, and Midnight's got tyre wear over 40%. So that is going to be, it's going to be a bit higher than that. So potentially it is getting a bit risky for Benjamin, being probably about just over halfway through this stint, mid 40% wear. It isn't looking good, I have to say. It's looking like they could very much be in puncture territory by the end of this race.
Someone who does seem to be taking it quite cautiously is Gill. He does seem to have a bit more pace than that in the tank, but to be fair to Gill, he doesn't need to push. You know, why push? Ballina's got all them penalties, they're not all going to get removed. Gill well within that 9-second penalty buffer he needs, and he's sat quite comfortable at the minute, is the defending Season 5 champion. Back to the front, as you mentioned, Benjamin still unable to make a move. And you'd rather get the feeling if he is thinking about softs, it's got to be done soon so we can reap the rewards of the fresh, soft tyres.
Yeah, I mean, if you go too late, then obviously you won't get the speed out. Well, you'll get the speed, but you won't have the time to use it. So you'll sort of be stuck without any time to use all the extra that you could have. So you've really got to pick and choose your moment. I mean, a late safety car could change everything here.
Of course.
Most of they seem fairly calm and seem to be behaving themselves. Of course, since the early stages, I mean, he did have a few crashes here and there. But since then, it's been very clean throughout the entire field, and I've got a feeling it will stay that way until the end. But Benjamin at the moment holding on to Midnight very well. Yeah,
he seems to have just turned up the wick a little bit here. He's just 0.3 of a second behind Midnight. Maybe it was his turn. Maybe Ben took the baton and said, you know, it's my turn to sit back and relax for a little bit, you know, get them tyres where he wants them to be, get the temperatures under control, because it is quite easy to overheat. Maybe, you know, the front tyres through this middle sector, especially if you're following a car at the speed that Benjamin is doing to Midnight. It's all about, does he have the ERS levels, does he have the straight line speed in order to go and have a go at Midnight, who, let's be honest, has looked unstoppable so far today.
Yeah, I mean, Midnight has been absolutely flying pace at the moment. And Benjamin, although he's shown sparks of that pace, it hasn't appeared to be consistent enough to really be a potential winner. Of course, definitely in the fight, but hasn't been a clear winner like of course he was last week. So I think at the moment both drivers are pushing very hard to try and extend that gap behind potentially. But I don't see why they would need to push so hard. Because Bauer not all his penalties, Gill of course so far back. But one thing I have thought about is could potentially Midnight, knowing he's got fresher tyres than Benjamin, could he be trying to deliberately push on harder and harder to push Benjamin into pushing his tyres harder and harder, and sort of Midnight getting his tyres right to the limit, and knowing that Benjamin must have worse tyres than him, trying to get Benjamin over the limit and perhaps giving him a puncture in the late stages of the race. Just absolutely getting him to the edge of grip and to the stage where perhaps a puncture could happen for Benjamin.
Or forcing him into a mistake is a possibility.
Yeah. It's a risky strategy either way, because of course pushing your rival, of course you're going to have to push yourself as well. So it could end up that Midnight forced himself into a mistake. But it's you have to balance it and find the limit for yourself, and also sort of the limit you want to push the other driver without risking too much for yourself. And that is going to be crucial for them.
Yellow flag in sector 2. That is Luke and Nick, who's gone around and had a spin. Don't think that's going to cause any safety car or virtual safety car, but as his teammate comes around to lap him, it's not the best steering from Luke and Nick. However, I'm pretty sure the Racing Point team principal is going to have one more thing on his mind at the minute. It does certainly seem as though if Midnight cannot get any more warnings, it does seem as if he will claim the win, because it doesn't look as if Benjamin has... He's got the pace to close up, but he doesn't seem to have the ultimate pace to go and make that move.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. He looks quick, but it's almost like he's relying too much on that DRS to be able to stay with Midnight. I got a feeling that if Benjamin did lose the DRS, that he wouldn't be able to get back into it. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he can stay in that DRS. If he can stay in the DRS, then perhaps he'll make a late challenge, taking Midnight by surprise, perhaps. But at the moment, I have to say Midnight looks like the driver in control at the stage of the race.
Then again, Benjamin's got a lot of ERS to play with. I've been riding on board with him this lap. You can see his telemetry in the bottom right corner, the best part of 90%. Then again, it's the same story for Midnight, so it's almost like a game of cat and mouse between these two drivers. You go, no you go, no you go, no you go, and it certainly seems as if these drivers, once they deploy all that energy, they'll have a lot more pace within them. But I wonder if Ben is aware, and vice versa. I wonder if Midnight is aware that both of their competitors are very healthy in terms of the energy side.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they are basically equal at this stage. That's what I think it's going to be. Is that I think both of them are trying to pressure each other into using it, thinking that they are pressuring each other into using it, but they're not. That's the issue they have. But yeah, I mean, the risk at the moment, I think, for both of them is that they focus on pushing each other too hard and push themselves too hard and either make a mistake or destroy their tyres.
Well, we've seen that happen before in Viral, right at this track. Sorry to cut you off there, Jackson, but here is my little knowledge. We saw Ryan Olibol back in, I think it must have been season 3, make a mistake at this very corner, at the last corner, go off into the final, and there's a safety car! There's a safety car, Jackson!
My.
Tim Wentink has retired.
Everything.
Dylan, Memes has got a puncture on his front left, 24 lap old hard tyres. AMC took them 24 laps on the mediums last race, and it's a safety car with 3 laps to go. So Benjamin closes right up. If Gill didn't get that penalty, Ballina, soft tyres. He's got the luxury of pitting, but he is going to drop behind Gill. Is he going to drop behind Solly? No, he's not. Gill up into 3rd. Ballina is going to be stayed out. Solly B, Scott Bunya is going to be in trouble. in the latter stage of this race. Can Ballon, well, surely he'll be able to, but how much of a fight is he going to take to Midnight? Benjamin, Gil, are we going to have a one-lap shootout here for the final, well, for the win of the race, Jackson?
I think that's definitely what we're about to see, in my opinion. I think it's all about to kick off. With so many drivers going to be in the fight, Gil here with slightly fresher tyres, could he potentially take the fight to the top two? He could at least mix things up and perhaps get in their way. Is that Benjamin pitting? Was that?
Yeah, Benjamin dives into the pits.
That is, will he lose a position?
Let's see, following Gil. I don't think he will, because Gil will still have to stick to a delta until he crosses that finish line. I think it might be close for Benjamin, but he is at the pit lane exit now. Remember, he can race to safety car line 2, which he's at now. So yeah, Benjamin well clear. And is this a mistake from Midnight? Is this a mistake from Midnight?
I mean, it's going to be a one-lap shootout. I think it's possible. I think on that one lap, it's going to come down to the driver and not the tyres. Tyres are also going to be a big thing, but I don't know if it's going to be enough.
It's Benjamin's got, well, Midnight's got to rely on a perfect safety car restart. It's going to be a one-lap shootout, Jackson. I don't think we're going to have all the field actually caught up to the safety car.
Oh, this is going to be insane. Who is caught up at this stage?
Well, crucially, Midnight, Benjamin, Gil, Balliner, and Solely B might just tag on, but everyone else isn't going to be able to. Crucially, Midnight has got a car in the form of Harry, a lapped car in between himself and Benjamin. So Benjamin will have to clear him to get through as Harry does pull into the pit. So for one final lap, here we go then, racing around the Styrian Mountains. Midnight leads us the way. There's a legitimate battle. Ben on fresh soft tyres. Is he able to make a move? This is going to be for the win. What an exit Ben gets out of the final corner. He's got all his ERS power enabled, as does Midnight though. He's going to defend the inside. Can Midnight defend on them 20 lap old medium tyres? Surely it's going to be impossible. Benjamin tries around the outside, can't get it done. Midnight blocks it off wonderfully. This might be Ben's last overtaking opportunity of the race here. He's still pushing. Midnight defends the inside. He's going to squeeze his rival round the outside. Ben late on the brakes. He tries around the outside. Is there going to be contact? There's not. With some great traction there from Benjamin. He's up into the lead of this race. What a move from Benjamin. It looks like the championship leader's going to claim yet another win here this season. He's somehow pulled it out the bag. Midnight put up the fight as much as he could. Meanwhile, Gil still holding on from Balliner behind, but we're going to focus on Benjamin. What a drive, what a day for the championship leader. He's going to extend his lead at the top of the championship. It's another win for Mercedes. It's 5 out of 5 for Mercedes this season. Benjamin purple in sector 1, 2, or 1 and 3 I should say. Midnight finishes second. The reigning champion Gil returned to the podium. It's a 3-4 for Renault. Scott on his debut up in 5th. Solely B scores points for the Haas team in 6th. Ballon the 7th, Motrol 8th, and the 2 Red Bulls 9th and 10th. Jackson, I need to lie down.
Well, that was one hell of a final lap. I did not see that one coming. Benjamin clearly made the right decision there. Midnight just couldn't defend from that much grip. I mean, he needed to get the elbows out even more, but I don't think that was possible. I think he did all he could, and that's what happens when Benjamin's we knew he had the pace all race long. We knew he had the pace, but he had that edge there, such a big advantage on those tyres that it was impossible to beat him. And that's what won him the race today.
As you said, it was a quiet race, a calm race in the middle period, but it certainly crescendoed at the end, and wow, what a finish. You know, we were calling for a late safety car, and that is as late as you can leave it. So bear in mind, these are provisional results. I want to stress that. Benjamin, again, 4 out of 5 this season. That's a serious record, Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, that is outstanding. And Mercedes to get 5 out of 5, it is. I mean, I did not, after qualifying, I did not expect that. And Gill on the podium, fantastic result from him. And it's Renault in 4th place as well. We said earlier in the race, we said maybe after he pitted onto those soft tyres, we said maybe if there's a late safety car he could get back into the fight. And that's exactly what happened. And Renault there, this time, we did not jinx their great result, and they have got a great result today.
That's huge for the Constructors' Championship for them. Haas scoring points, as I said, but Williams not able to make it 5 podiums out of 5 this season. Nevertheless, still getting a few points, but such a shame for Harry being caught up in that first lap incident. But Benjamin, what can we do to stop him? We've thrown drive-throughs his way, we've thrown rain, we've thrown a late race safety car, and he still wins. I think the only way to beat Benjamin is to drive to his house and turn off his internet, seemingly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way that's worked so far this season. Yeah, it is. It's just on another level at the moment. Because even when he's not necessarily the quickest driver on track, he still wins. It is truly outstanding. And, I mean, it's not often he isn't the quickest driver on track, but today I think it's fair to say he didn't, to me personally, didn't look like the fastest guy today. And he still pulls it out of the bag and gets some hell of a race. And, well, it just shows how good of a driver he is.
Of course, of course. Jackson, if you don't mind inviting the drivers to the party.
I can do that.
It'd be interesting to hear from Ben. 4th to 1st, I believe actually his lowest qualifying this season, which I think indicates how well he's done.
Yeah, I mean, he's been rapid everywhere. That's the thing, and it's only after crashing does he end up in a position off the top 3, which is just insane, and just not something I expected to see. But he still goes through and wins it. I mean, with drama for other drivers, other drivers making mistakes left, right, and centre, and he goes straight through to them and he wins it. And it's just outstanding driving from him.
The only race that Ben didn't win this season is the obviously one he had his internet cut out for. So, yeah, as I said, it's he's going to take some stopping. We're throwing Midnight at him, we're throwing Dylan Warren at him today, obviously disregarding Hungary. Tim, Gill, Benjamin seems unstoppable, but welcome Gill to the party. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations, welcome back to the podium. It's great to have you back.
Yes, finally. It was a tough race, but it's my first podium on wheel, so I am extremely happy.
Yeah, congratulations, happy for you. What's it like racing on the wheel, adjusting, and how comfortable do you feel on your wheel now?
It's getting better, race after race, so I was really confident today. I don't know why, because I didn't practice for this race. I was busy this morning. So I don't know, I was confident I could attack, so yeah, I think I had a good pace, but to be honest, I don't know. I had a bug at the start because I didn't have the lights, so I lost several positions. But after that, it was a good race.
Yeah, congratulations, and great to have you back on the podium, and I hope that this is the start of something new for you, and maybe you can take a fight to Benjamin. Ben, welcome, and this is getting a regular occurrence. Maybe in the future me and Jackson should set up a party with me, him and you in, and then just invite the other 2 podium sitters. Congratulations, and 4 out of 5. How are you feeling, Ben?
Yeah, I'm still a bit shaking, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it was a really intense last lap. And also really intense 20 laps on those mediums. 2 warnings. I got a penalty because I got pushed out wide turn 1 by a Ferrari. So I was just focusing on not getting another warning. But yeah, just making sure to overtake Jack in the last lap too. for if it doesn't get removed. So yeah, I'm really happy.
Yeah, and you seem to, in terms of relative pace, you seem to struggle a little bit more today than you have in previous races. Like, you didn't bolt and just win it. You said you were struggling with a few wheel issues. Could you just talk us through what they were and if they were still giving you problems in the race?
Yeah, so 2 p.m. I think, British time. My wheel didn't calibrate when I turned it on. It was like all the way to the right when in game it's straight, so I couldn't really drive with that. And then I downloaded the new firmware, but I couldn't find it at first. So 50 minutes before the race, I found it and then I downloaded it. And yeah, when I got into the lobby, it's always a bit different with the new firmware setting. So I needed to adjust, but it's fine now.
And just about that final lap overtake, I'm sure you were quite happy about the safety car, brought you well back into contention, because it didn't look as if you, with all due respect, it didn't look as if you were able to have a go at midnight under normal racing conditions, but pitting for the softs, what was that last lap overtake like around the outside of turn number 4?
Yeah, it wasn't really a fair battle. I mean, midnight had like 75% mediums, I guess, and I had new softs. Yeah, so I had a lot more grip, and around the outside, yeah, it felt nice.
Awesome, well, congratulations, Ben, and yeah, again, 4 out of 5, it's seriously impressive. But we're going to move on to midnight now. Midnight, such a shame for you. You know, you did such a good job. You're on pole, great lap, I must say as well. But just missing out at the final hurdle there. How does it feel?
Well, I'm a bit annoyed, obviously, because with the safety car on the last lap, or lap 34, which Tim. Okay, I'm gonna say it now, and I don't care. Tim deliberately crashed out to get that safety car, and he even admitted it. So, but I don't think I would have won anyway, because Benjamin said earlier, got pushed wide in lap 1, I think, by Ferrari, so he would have got the penalty removed. But yeah, I'm happy with the pace, I guess, but it just, you know, P2 isn't P1, is it? So, oh well.
Yeah, shame for you. I understand the frustration. Nevertheless, a great return, and I think that's certainly positive to take. I think you're one of the only drivers this season to honestly hold a candle to Benjamin. So, yeah, if that can relieve a bit of the pain, then I hope you can take a positive from that. But looking forwards, can we expect to see you back? Can we expect to see you pushing on in a couple of rounds' time? Maybe, you know, trying to avenge your what is a loss of the win today.
Maybe. I mean, after today's race, I mean, it would be fun to go against Ballon and Benjamin on a Sunday. So I already go against them on a
Dylan, if he doesn't crash out. So.
Well, that was really funny. I just yeah. But yeah, yeah, it'll be fun because I race against them, Benjamin and Arnaud on a Monday, so it'll be good to race against them twice a week. So yeah, I might do next week, maybe.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Midnight, and thank you, drivers, for today, for joining, and congratulations on all your results. Jackson, I'm going to turn to you briefly. Different with you not being in the session, but feels as if you covered quite well, and an entertaining race that really crescendoed at the end, nonetheless.
Yeah, it was an exciting race throughout. Lots of entertainment, lots of incidents early on, lots of battles throughout the race, and of course at the end, Benjamin making that move around the outside. It was a great way to finish the race. Good to see some nice on-track battling for the win. Whether or not I would have decided on penalties, also not sure at the moment. But it's great to see it end with a great on-track battle and a fair overtake for the lead. Of course, tyres were a big part of it, but still, it's nice to see some good battling for a win, which is always good fun to watch, and great driving from all the drivers today.
Of course, as always, Jackson, thank you very much, and thank you all for watching on the stream. It's been great to have you along. All your comments all your views. Apologies, the quality was a bit iffy at times. It's not usually my job to stream for obvious reasons, as demonstrated today. But no, Jackson, again, thank you very much. Thank you, drivers, and thank you, viewers. We'll see you next time as VL returns next week. Goodbye.